President Donald Trump has commuted the federal life sentence for infamous Chicago-born Gangster Disciples founder Larry Hoover, abruptly ending Hoover's years-long quest to win early release under the First Step Act passed during Trump's first term. The two-page order said Hoover's sentence was considered served with no further fines, restitution, probation, or other conditions, directed by the U.S. Bureau of Prisons to release him immediately, according to copy document provided by Hoover's legal team. But Hoover isn't going free. He's still serving 200-year sentence for his state court convictions for murder. Officials with the Illinois Department of Corrections have previously said they will push for Hoover to finish his state sentence in federal prison due to security concerns. So right now, go ahead.
Translation, somebody in the state system is likely to kill him because of what happened. He still has this 150 to 200 year term to serve. And I think the whole thing is misguided. I approve of President Trump, but not everything he does, and this is one of them. This is upon recommendation of Kanye West, the spouse of Kim Kardashian, who sponsored Johnson being pardoned, the drug queen pin for the southeast of the United States, who allegedly is responsible for all of the crackheads and drug babies from the late 80s up into the early 90s, from Florida all the way up to Chicago and Illinois. I had some matters that pertain to her homicides that were in front of me and went to trial. Now, Hoover was sponsored by Kanye West, who did a long concert during Trump's first administration to get him freed. Again, what is going on is the big story. President Trump has for his Negro advisors a group of people who have been permitted to get to him through his gatekeepers, who I think are probably trying to maintain their power base by controlling access, and it is not doing the president any good or the country any good. And there are other people who have a little bit more expertise with the subject than those who are advising the president on such crucial issues. History will look at him, and I think to protect what he is doing now, which is very vital to the country's interest, he needs to make sure that he gets all of his I's dotted and T's crossed, and he does not need a Kanye West, a Kim Kardashian to be advising on the application of criminal law, criminal reform, prison reform, and sentencing reform. And what he did is he did not pardon the man. He simply commuted his sentence to effectively time served. Now he's potentially eligible for parole, because this is before Illinois switched over to the no administrative parole allowed on sentences like he got for the murder convictions or conviction, which came into place in 1978. And this is for some stuff that happened in 1973, about a year, 2 years after the gangs got started. So all of the hell that is going on in Chicago with the gang problems, this contributes to stuff that came out of LA, New York, and other places. And a person greatly responsible for the sheer chaos, violence, and depravity that is going on in the Black communities in these large urban areas is being forgiven, because Mrs. Kardashian, Mr. West, decided, along with Mrs. West, Miss Kardashian, that they knew better about the American justice system than those who actually have expertise in the subject.
Now, let me bring this into the fold. Once one of the nation's largest street gangs, the Gangster Disciples, became a major criminal force under Hoover's leadership, with operations that spread to dozens of U.S. citizens and were as sophisticated as many legitimate corporations, including a strict code of conduct for members and a franchise style system for drug sales.
Yeah, we still have a problem with GDs, the Crips, the Bloods, traveling vice lords here in Memphis. In fact, the police department and the sheriff's department have been highly infiltrated by these street gangs, as have the departments in various other large cities, which is part of the reason that law and order has gone completely to hell in those locations. So I don't think this helps the situation at all.
It says that they had armies of lawyers and accountants. They had their own clothing line, music promotion company, political action committee. They had a structure that helped them to insulate the leaders from the drugs and the guns. So, this organization, you talk about RICO, right?
Yes. So, and by the way, one of the things that he's being commuted on, sentence, occurred, well, what he is in for, that Trump commuted the sentence on, is him operating organized crime business while he was incarcerated for the murders. Just think about that. He's in a prison running a major street crime organization.
Yes. And that is why that was one of the arguments from his lawyer. And his lawyer, I believe she is one of the lawyers that represented R. Kelly and Bill Cosby, Borgine. I'm probably Bonjean. So he was in solitary confinement. And he's also he was housed in the maximum supermax prison in Colorado. It also had another high-profile, notorious detainee, including Sinaloa cartel boss El Chapo, September 11th terrorist attack plotter, another Chicago gang leader who founded El Rukns, Rukns, Rux, El Rux, I don't know. But anyway, he was in solitary confinement, and maybe that was why, because at one point, maybe when he first went into prison, he was still operating the gangs from inside. So you got to completely isolate them. So he's 70.
Yeah, well, that is still going on right now. They have some notorious gangsters that the U.S. government went through a lot getting in prison that are still in prison operating gangs. So that is a big problem. We have a maximum security federal penitentiary right here in Memphis, Tennessee. It's right next to the medium security state penitentiary, which is right next to the county detention facility and penal farm. They're all in the same area. It's nothing unusual, and they have these very dangerous individuals that are in there, and paradoxically they've got one of the damnedest things I've ever seen in my life, at least they used to, and that is they have the federal guards around the periphery of the penitentiary for the feds, in which they have maximum security prisoners, but they also have those who got 5 years for possession of 3 rocks, 4 rocks. And they've got inmate guards. At one point, they were wearing olive drab fatigues with polished jump boots and these maroon fezzes, and they were authorized to protect the low status inmates from the high status inmates, and they would all be in check with the maximum security federal employee guards around the periphery who would protect the inmate guards who were charged with keeping law and order inside the maximum security federal institution.
So
The
here's
most
my question.
ridiculous thing you've ever seen.
So here's my question. You know, was this a bad pardon on Trump's part?
It's not a pardon, it's a commutation.
Well,
See, a pardon means you are forgiven. You didn't do it. You
yeah.
are victim of a government wrong. A commutation of sentences, you've done 21 years out of 50. All right. The president says, I commute your sentence to the from 50 years to the 21 you've done. You go. You can go. It doesn't mean you are forgiven for your crime. It just means we no longer have a hold on you. You can get out.
I stand corrected. Yes, it was commuted. So he's basically saying, okay, you did enough crime. You are at a point you cannot do any more damage to the community, even if you tried. So let's just let him come home. And of course, we know Kanye West was petitioning for this man to come home.
I know versions on Kanye West or Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, so
trying to get involved, but out of all of the people in the United States of America, 360 million souls, you pick these two as having the most expertise, the most savvy on the subject. Is that who you listen to? I'm not faulting him because I'm not expecting him to have expertise in these things. I'm faulting the selection of the gatekeepers who funnel these folk into his presence and say, you should talk to them, Mr. President. They know what's going on. See, that is being very screwed up.
Yeah. So,
see, look, let me just say that some people from this mystical, supposedly, according to J. Edgar Hoover, non-existent organized crime entity, we know what we're talking about here. They even look at entities like the Crips as a foul thing. It's like you don't mess with your civilians. You protect them. You do your organized crime stuff where it lies outside of your community. But in the proverbial street terms, the Gangster Disciples, the Crips, the traveling vice lords, they shit all over where they eat. In other words, they screw up their own communities by their criminality. This is the reason that you don't want to stop, even if you're black, and get gas at a do-it-yourself or self-help gas station when it starts getting dark, or even when it's still broad daylight in the wrong sections. This is when you worry about going a half block down the street to go say something to your neighbor or to go 2 houses down. This is why this hell is going on, and this certainly doesn't help it. Unless perhaps there's some kind of counter agreement, since maybe he's still perhaps running organized crime rackets from jail like they reached with the mafia in World War II with Lucky Luciano, when the U.S. government suspected that the Nazis and the fascisti out of Italy were sabotaging stuff in New York Harbor. The agreement was, Lucky Luciano, will give you some slack if you use your Godfather influence to stop this espionage and sabotage that enemies of the United States are carrying out in New York Harbor. Apparently, they were satisfied that he did, so he got some slack and he got deported back to Sicily.
right.
So maybe there's a deal like that. I don't know.
Right.
But unless there is something, this is inexcusable, and it's just a product of bad advice. You can't know everything if you're running something, so you have to rely upon your advisors. And the quality of your advisors determines the quality of the actions that you take. to a certain extent. But we don't need any more of this where they have Negro gatekeepers who channel in dysfunctional advisement that impacts so many in a negative fashion.